A comedian who gained widespread recognition was on his way to yet another sold-out show when an intoxicated driver, recklessly crossing over the center line on Highway 95 northwest of Needles, California, struck his vehicle head-on. What would follow would cause a ripple through the comedy community and lead many to ruminate what lies beyond the veil. Welcome to Shifting Veils. My name is Michelle,
And I am Isaiah.
and this is where we talk about things we find just outside of clear view. So if you like the unexplained, possibly paranormal, and always strange, stick around as we explore the possibilities of what is beyond our natural senses.
A child of a Pentecostal preacher, Samuel Burrell Kinnison, went on to preach himself from the age of 17, but decided to trade a pulpit with a comedy stage at the age of 24. By 1992, Sam was at the height of his career, regularly booking sold-out shows in huge venues, appearing on television shows, movies, and in music videos played on MTV. On that April night when Sam's Pontiac Firebird was struck head-on by a drunk driver, he was on his way with his wife to Laughlin, Nevada, where a sold-out show was booked. Sam's brother and manager, Bill, was driving in a car behind Sam's when the collision occurred. According to him, there was a truck in the opposing traffic on the two-lane highway that was passing cars. Both Sam and Bill slowed down to nearly 15 miles per hour to let the truck fall back into his lane, but what they didn't know was that there was a second truck following close behind the first. There was no time to react, and Sam's car was struck. When Bill approached the wreckage, Sam appeared to have only a few scratches going down his forehead, where he had hit the windshield. Eventually, Sam worked himself out of his seat and onto the ground, where he laid down to wait for emergency personnel at the insistence of those at the scene. His best friend Carl and his brother Bill would then see and hear Sam talking, but not to either one of them, or anyone else at the scene. He appeared to be having a conversation with something no one else could see as he said, "I don't want to die. I don't want to die." There would be a pause, then speaking again to something unseen, he said, "But why?" Then another pause that was followed up with, "Okay, okay, okay," as if he had come to find some sort of peace. It was at this time that Sam took his last breath. What the people there didn't know that night was that while Sam hardly looked injured, the impact of the wreck had caused a dislocation in his cervical spine, a torn aorta, and torn blood vessels in his abdominal cavity. Sam basically bled out internally.
That's crazy. I remember whenever he passed away, but I don't remember hearing this story when it happened. But I know that he'd found fame like so quickly. I remember seeing him on MTV. I remember seeing him in movies and stuff like that. It was just people were asking him to be in everything basically, and um, and then right at the height of it, so it did like create this big ripple through the comedy community because he had like, I don't know if you ever listened to him, but he had like this iconic scream he would do.
I
And
don't
it
I don't know anything about this guy.
Yeah, he was just different. I don't know, he was just different. He wasn't everyone's cup of tea. It's kind of like Andrew Dice Clay, where he just was, I mean, they're comedians, so not everybody's going to love them. Comedians send a lot of ripples out into into the community, really, because, they do stuff that sometimes they say and do things that sometimes people think are offensive and
Oh,
whatever, but
especially now these days.
uh I guess so. I don't know. I think the
Well,
comedians I listen to these days, they're not too bad compared
the
to Richard Pryor, which I
the
absolutely loved.
yeah, Richard Pryor. I was just actually getting ready to watch Hear No Evil, See No Evil, I think it is, with
Yeah.
Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder.
Yes. I
That was a
love both
great
of them.
movie. Um,
Yeah.
but no, there's a lot of people listening would actually agree with us. There's like, was it his name? Matt Rafe. I think he's one of the
Oh,
big
yeah.
ones where people just want to cancel. like the whole cancel culture attacks comedians, and like they can't make jokes. And that's the thing, is they can't make jokes like they used to. No, like
I
it's a
I'm
very
I might
sensitive subject
I
matter
might
anymore.
make people upset by saying this. I'm sorry if my opinion differs from others, but it's mine. He's funny. He's funny, okay? But he's also just a dick sometimes.
He is a dick, but
I'm
yeah, he's
I mean,
hilarious.
which a lot of comedians you could probably say that about. I feel like he's really cocky, and I think that's where he gets on my nerves is those points. But he is funny.
Well,
I
here's the
just
thing too, though, is like this is where it comes into saying that like comedians back then are different from now, because you and I, the comedians we made, they there was almost no censorship to it. They made
true.
fun of everything, everybody, themselves, other people, subject matter, all cultures, all heritage. They did jokes about everything.
Yeah.
And now today, whenever that happens, like I said, that's when the cancel culture comes in. And
Yeah.
as soon as somebody's thing is like made fun of, they're like, "Nope, you're not cool to me anymore." And then
Oh, well, Matt can do whatever he wants. I really don't care.
I'm gonna say,
I mean, like I said, I think he's funny. I think whenever, I don't know, he does this cocky, he gets this look on his face. Sometimes it just irks the shit out of me.
mm-hmm,
But I'm not going to see his shows, so he doesn't hurt me any. I don't really care. And
right,
sometimes, I'm scrolling Facebook and he comes across my feed, and I will watch it and listen to it. And I do think that he's funny, but I know that I remember whenever he really pissed off some people here a little bit back.
mm-hmm.
But who doesn't anymore? I mean, everybody. I don't know. Everybody
Well,
gets pissed off.
so this is the thing, and this is like, is that like we're laughing at the jokes, and see again, it's a different time,
It
and
is,
it's
yeah.
not like that's a defense. It's just what it is.
Hmm.
Um, like you and I, we make jokes about each other, with each other, and just about whatever, and it's
Yeah.
fun, and we laugh about it because we know we're not meaning any harm. And that's kind of what these comedians used to do, is they're not meaning any harm. Well, some of them. I'm not going to say all of them. I'm sure some of them had bad or ill intentions. I don't know for sure. I didn't know them, but like we we laugh with the intention of just making each other laugh, not like we're out there being like, "Now I'm going to stab you with a knife" or anything like that.
Yeah. That honestly, that's one of my favorite parts of like um comedy shows, comedians when they're doing crowd work
Hmm.
and, they're singling out a person or a couple people or a group of people. But there's one, and I don't know why I never can remember the guy's name. He's always on my Facebook feed. I just started watching him maybe a couple weeks ago or a month ago, but he does a lot of crowd work. It's most of his material is just crowd work. And while he's doing it, he's not just making fun of the people that he's talking to, he's making fun of himself too.
Hmm.
So it's kind of back and forth. But that's my favorite part of it, of comedy shows, is the crowd work, you know?
and
Um,
and see, like the going back and forth like that, it's just a way that a comedian will balance it out. They're like, okay,
mhm.
I'm gonna give you some jabs, I'm gonna jab myself a couple times, give you some jabs. It's like it's a back and forth,
Yeah,
without it being a back and forth.
right. Well, we we've gotten way to the left of this topic, so we
Yeah,
probably ought to get back to the deathbed visions.
yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I just, I wanted to say I remembered whenever that happened with Sam,
I can
and
always edit some of this stuff out too, so.
well, it's cool. I don't think anyone's really going to be upset about the little journey of comedian stuff or whatever we just did. Anyway, um, yeah, I remember when that happened with Sam, and it was kind of a big deal at the time. Um, I don't know how he would be received as a comedian these days because things are different, but then it was a big deal. But to be in a collision like that and to be sitting in the middle of the road and no one knows it, but you're dying, essentially
Oh,
you're
that's Sam
dying.
Kinnison.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm so sorry I interrupted you. No, I just looked up Sam Kinnison. I know who Sam Kinnison is.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's Sam. Yeah, everybody should know who Sam is. If you
Sorry,
don't know
yeah.
who Sam is, maybe Google him. Do yourself a favor. Um, but to be sitting there with so many people witnessing him talking to somebody or something that no one else can see as he's dying, he clearly was experiencing something. He was experiencing something that no one else was experiencing the same way that he was.
Right.
And that's what we want to talk about in this episode.
Yes.
Okay, you can cut it after I said that. And then it'll just go into where I. He was kind of all over the place at the time, and I remember when he died, but I don't remember. I don't remember this story really. I think I might have been too young to care so much, maybe. But that's just kind of wild that this happened, and so many people witnessed this conversation he had.
Yeah, it's
Did you watch
strange.
Sam Kinnison?
No.
Yeah, he was he was kind of obnoxious. Like, he definitely was a Pentecostal preacher's son. I I later knew that he had preached for a little while, but I mean, he had this scream that he would do that was just like iconic whenever he was doing his stuff. So I don't know. Many people have been witnessed during these types of exchanges leading up to their deaths, leaving those of us among the living with questions that do not have a definitive answer. Other well known names had similar experiences before death. Steve Jobs is said to have gazed past his family with an expression of awe and uttered, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." When the actress Sharon Stone had a near fatal brain hemorrhage, she later reported being met by some of her friends who had died in years past. When the poet William Wordsworth was on his deathbed, he's said to have called out, "God bless you. Is that you, Dora?" Dora was his deceased daughter. It was kind of neat whenever I was looking this stuff up, seeing like, it's not that it makes it any more of a thing that a celebrity experiences this stuff. I guess it's just whenever well known people experience these things. I don't know. You hear. I don't know. I worked in like healthcare, and I would see people experience things and stuff. It's just different, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, it's understandable what you're saying because it's the same thing whenever we say it it's interesting to hear when a person of authority of some kind experiences something paranormal because then we're getting somebody who is of higher recognition.
Yeah, people listen to them.
Right.
Why we put Hollywood in that position, I don't know. I mean, William Wordsworth was a poet, so he doesn't really fit the Sharon Stone or Sam Kinison bill, but
We put them there because people, especially kids, still look up to these people. They want to be an actor, they want to be a singer, they want to be a
it's
writer.
true.
So as
Yeah.
long as there's somebody to be looked up to, people are going to look at them and be like, they've got some sort of recognition. I can believe them.
Yeah, that's true. Um, I've heard a story of one elderly woman who, in weeks leading up to her death, would inform her caretakers that she needed to get her suitcase down out of the closet. She would say that she had a train to catch and she needed to pack. One day she is napping. It's reported that she opens her eyes, looks at a fixed point across the room, and says cheerfully and hopeful, "Hi, Dad." Then she closed her eyes and went back to sleep and shortly passed. Her father had died 20 years prior. When I worked in patient care, my coworkers and I all had stories of residents saying that they needed to pack for a train or bus or a trip that was coming, or that they had been visited by people we couldn't see. It was usually their mom or dad or a sibling, whoever it was. It was always someone who had been close to them throughout their life. Usually, these encounters were characterized by a sense of peace and acceptance. We all know that these were signals that death was near. I know of one person who spoke of their father at the end of his life, saying that he kept telling them he was seeing a little dog sitting in a chair next to his bed. He would describe the dog in detail and would point his finger at it with serious certainty. After he died, they went through an old box of his things and found a sketch he had done as a child of his little pet dog sitting in a chair. One of my own experiences with these types of things was when I went to see my ailing grandmother. I was braiding her hair, and all during the visit, she would ask if I could see them too. When I asked what she meant, she told me that there were black butterflies flying around the room and landing on things. While a lot of firsthand stories of these experiences I know and things I saw during the years I worked in patient care are peaceful and calm, there have been some that were the opposite. One man I took care of at the end of his life, whose name I will withhold for respect of their loved ones, had a very unpleasant experience. I worked night shift at the time. This particular evening had been rather uneventful when suddenly the silence was shattered by a man's weak but terrified yell. It was my patient. The three of us that were on the floor, the floor, what the, what word is floorth? What is that? The three of us that were on the floor ran midway down the hall to where his room was located and began trying to find out what was wrong. He was non-ambulatory, so I think what we were all afraid of was that he had somehow gotten around his bed railing and had fallen in the floor. But we were met with mild relief when we got to him to find him lying in his bed where we had placed him a little less than 2 hours prior. We eventually calmed him enough to be able to understand what he was trying to tell us. He reported seeing what he called the angel of death walking past his room. He was clearly terrified. We listened to him describe what he saw, fully believing him. The only comfort we could give him, really, was that he had walked past his room and was now gone. Before the end of that shift, the woman across and down the hall had passed in her sleep. The next night, the same thing happened. He yelled. We went to his room. He had seen it again and was convinced it was coming for him. He was still with us that morning when I clocked out of my shift, but I was later told that the man that lived in the room just before his passed shortly after I left. I didn't work the next night, but when I returned to work after my 2 days off, I learned that that night after my last shift, my patient again broke the quiet on the floor by yelling frantically, and again the staff on the floor ran to his room. But when they got to him, he was deceased. We all assumed that he again saw what he had seen the 2 nights prior, but this time it was coming for him. Things were quiet on that floor for some time after that. That really, I remember that vividly, and that was so long ago, but that was a really, really freaky time. I mean, he was just, this man was a reverend, actually. I'm not going to say his name, but he was a reverend. And I remember he was terrified. He was absolutely terrified. And there was like really, we believed him. But yeah, what are you going to do? All we could do was comfort him that he was still there, and
Hmm.
tell him, no, he obviously it's just going to the next room because they passed, um, but it was, yeah, that was just one of the freaky things that happened in regard to that subject.
I've heard
Um,
I've heard a couple different stories like this before, not necessarily like the same manner, um, but where like there are, and I can't remember. All right, I'm gonna be honest. I might have mixed it up with like a movie, but I feel like it was an actual encounter that I had read at one point. But somebody or a home, um, I can't think what this called. What are they called? The homes that people go to be comfortable at the end of their life.
Um,
Um,
well, there's nursing homes that you're usually not very comfortable in.
it's not nursing.
Hospice.
A
Um,
hospice. Yeah.
okay.
So people are they've got rooms lined up, and they've got the people in their hospice, and they've had a cat that would go and sit in the doorway of every patient that was going to pass that night. So the cat would be sitting with the nurse station, and then when a night comes along and somebody was going to pass that night, the cat would wander to that door and sit right in the doorway. And there was a point where it just became common that every time that cat approached and sat in that doorway, that person would pass. And so it's kind of interesting when it comes to this kind of thing. It's people coming naturally to the end of their life, I think.
Yeah. Mm.
But yeah, anyway,
What these
sorry.
patients, no, you're fine. You're good. What these patients are experiencing actually has a name. Medical and hospice workers typically refer to these occurrences as deathbed visions or end of life experiences. And while some may have varying views on what is actually happening due to culture or religious beliefs, when looked at through a scientific lens, there is no universal explanation. It seems in these cases it's easier for the medical community to say what is not happening than to say what is. Science says that these end of life experiences are not hallucinations or delusions caused by medication, lack of oxygen, or disease. There have been cases of near death experiences where a person is in a coma, showing no signs of brain activity, yet once they come back, they describe having seen things or been uh, visited with loved ones who are dead. How did their brain produce such cinema while it was essentially non active? Hallucinations are often associated with drug or mental illness and contain random and unrealistic phantasmagoria. On the other hand, deathbed visions have a particular pattern and they're often coherent and lucid. According to neuropsychologist Dr. Fenwick, these visions seem to indicate that consciousness is not entirely tied to the brain, suggesting that it may continue beyond the physical body. Another observation regarding deathbed visions is their consistency across cultures and religions. Regardless of religious beliefs or cultural backgrounds, people all over the world describe similar things in their experiences. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, atheists, and other believers or non believers alike all have these experiences, and most of these experiences are very similar to one another. What do you feel is happening? Does our consciousness expand beyond our physical existence? Science says this isn't delusions, and if it isn't, then this is really happening to this person. They are truly being visited by dead loved ones or seeing their beloved childhood pet. I mean, it certainly seems to be a palpable experience among those that have it, although it seems to only be happening to that single person in the room. During these times, as the person gets closer and closer to the end of his life, the veil seems to be less opaque, almost non existent. And while those of us surrounding those that we love before they depart can see them viewing what is beyond, we still have not gained the ability to see that quite yet. So, what do you think is happening?
I don't know. I mean, science usually says that there's something different things going off in the brain to like cause this, and our brains are very complicated. We run memories on a regular basis. Our dreams are the same thing. I would feel almost like the visions that people see, and I mean, people are lucid dreams and stuff like that. When it comes into that, is almost the same thing as well. I mean, you've had lucid dreams before,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it feels like you actually lived through a day, or you've lived an experience, and you wake up the next morning and it's all still fresh and it's still there in your head, and you feel that experience in your body almost. Um, if our bodies are able to conduct something like that just as a regular thing, I don't see any reason why our bodies or our minds couldn't produce a vision like this, a deathbed vision, But
So
I'm not going to say that that's the only reason. I do, where I stand when I believe in stuff like this.
right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the reason why you chose me to do this podcast, I think. So,
Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't know. I don't know that I feel like maybe in some cases these are these are visions produced by, electricity going over the surface of our brain. I don't know. I feel like as you get nearer to the time of your like physical death, that the veil in between this part of living and that part of existing is super super thin, and um, the things that we could see so easily whenever we were children, and as we got older we stopped seeing so much. And I mean, have you ever thought about that, how like
well, so
kids see stuff when they're little and then they grow up and they don't experience things anymore, but then
I
suddenly right before we die we're seeing things again,
so
you know?
here's the rule that I've always believed in, because I do believe in spirituality. You know that, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
There's four different times in our life, four different possible times in our lives that we can actually become closer or even cross that veil if we don't have the natural ability or talent to go into that veil. We have at birth or giving birth. Okay. Then we have being a child. Being a child, our minds are open to so much more. We are willing to accept so much more. And we are willing to be able to see so much more. And then there is near death. You could be 10, 16, 20, 30, 80, but if you're near death, that veil does get thinner, just like you said. And
Yeah.
then when you're just older, when you are just naturally older, you are going to be seeing that stuff more. So there's those 4 points in your life that you can see these things. And I totally believe in like what you're saying with being a child, and you see things, you hear things, you experience these spiritual things, these phenomena, so much more. But like I said, your brain as a child is so much more open to these things. That's why magic is so beautiful and brilliant when you're younger. That's why when you're seeing, like when you are told about fairies and goblins and dragons and all these beautiful mythical things, it's so much easier and better to see as a child. But as we grow older, we're conducted into this society where it's a endless march of work, earn money, and provide for people, provide a family, make children. And so our brains become more narrow minded. So when we're children, it's easier. And that's why when we get older, we stop giving two shits and we're like, you know what? Our brains kind of open back up a bit more. That's my opinion on that, though.
I still believe in magic though.
Well, so do I, Michelle, but we're not exactly, the norm of society either. You
No,
get what I'm saying, though.
I do get what you're saying. Yeah, and I can fall in line with that for sure. I can agree with that. Um, I don't know. I just it's wild to think about. I don't know. Um, that science isn't willing to sit there and say, um, nah, it's just hallucinations.
Well,
I think for the
s-
longest time, medical community would be like, "Oh, they're just having a dream," or "Oh, they're just seeing things," because whatever. But
well,
now
see,
they tend to validate those experiences.
at the same time, like those same the medical officials and scientists are still trying to prove that there's a soul in the body, and they have this percentage made up, or not made up, but written down for what consists and constitutes our soul. So there's like a 1% or 2% or whatever the percentage it was that makes up, like, it's got weight to it. They say, that's got this weight to it because when the body dies, they weigh the body again immediately after, and it's lost weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
and so there's a lot of science that wants to prove all the spirituality, but there's also science that tries going against spirituality. So, and then society's going to sit there and see those people trying to prove spirituality through science and being like, "Oh, you're just a bunch of quacks." So, I mean, where
The
do we
funny
stand when it comes to it?
the funny thing is that a lot of times science actually proves spirituality. Um, people are, people try to deny it and whatever, but a lot of times, deny it and just explain everything away with science, not realizing that science actually, in fact, proves spirituality. So it's
Right.
just kind of silly. I do want to mention we are at the end of the episode, but before we kind of close it up, I'm gonna include a couple of links. I've got a link for a video where Sam Kinnison's brother Bill gives an account of what happened during Sam's death, the whole conversation he had with the invisible whatever. And then there's another link to this woman that goes by Hospice Nurse Julie. I don't know if anyone is familiar with her or not, but she talks a lot about these deathbed visions, these end of life experiences. She works with people in hospice that experience it. There are some videos of people having these experiences, having these conversations. So it's kind of interesting. She does it in a respectful way. Of course, she's not going to put anybody's loved ones out there without permission, for everyone to see. But I think it's good because it does bring a little bit of education to people that have a loved one at home that is on hospice that they're taking care of, and they don't really know how to handle those situations. They might go in and correct him and say, "Oh, you can't see your mom. She died 30 years ago." It's just not beneficial to sit there and have those types of conversations or arguments with someone that is experiencing something like that. So I think that it's good that she's out there making those videos. So if you're curious, we're going to provide the links for those. Um, I think we're done here, unless you have something else you wanted to add.
If you have any of your own stories regarding end of life or near death experiences, please send us an email. And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and follow.
We love hearing from all of you and appreciate all of your support. Be watching our TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook account this week to find out what our next episode will be. Until next time, hug those close to you a little more and check on that person you've been thinking about.